It's happening right now, I think. Are we on? Okay. So I guess I'll share my screen. Cool. Can you guys see my presentation?
Yes.
Yes?
There we go.
There it is.
Awesome. Okay. So I've been doing SEO for a long time. It's changed a lot since the 90s, obviously. But what you're going to learn about today is getting found on Google for 2020. And really, it's a bigger picture because SEO encompasses so much more than just the SEO part. And I'll explain. So about me, I'm Jane Clark, for those who haven't met me. I have to admit, Gabby gave me a great idea for a bio. I mean, she was just like, hey, I'm awesome. And then I'm like, wait, this whole thing is about revealing your inner awesome. So I went back, redid my bio, and it was nice kind of remembering the things that has happened to me over the years. But so I am owner of Tiketica. It's a graphic and web design company. We do a lot of branding. I'm also the co-founder of BrandSpawn with my partner Jen Wells, who obviously you guys know really well. I'm a multidiscipline graphic designer. I'm also a front-end web developer, which basically means that I can design and then code it, and ultimately after that, get it ready for SEO. And I've been doing that for over 17 years now, believe it or not. I'm an adjunct professor for web design at Cecil College on occasion. I'm a board member and marketing committee chairperson for the Delaware Small Business Chamber. I'm on the event and marketing committee for Fresh Start Scholarship Foundation. They help women go back to school.
Excuse me, Jane, can you hold the microphone a little closer? You're a little soft.
How about now?
Much better.
Okay, good. I've been in the press. I've been in Technically. I've also been in RankWatch. I work with micro business, and I've also worked with Fortune 300 companies. Little story about that. A woman called me and she said, hey, I have a really big client, I need help. I said, of course I'll help you. We became really good friends and we really worked on this. And she brought a really big client to us. I have an NDA, can't even tell you who they are, except that they're in the financial industry. And I got on 4 planes in 2 days. And I thought it was just a formality, just going there, meeting them, showing them our presentation. But she didn't tell me that that was actually what we were pitching to them. So, so the whole time I'm more worried about the plane ride and making sure we're on boarding on time and all of that. And really, I was her creative director pitching to this financial company to pick us as their company. So that was kind of exciting. I didn't realize that until the meeting was over, and I was just like, what? I would have done some things differently if I had known we hadn't gotten the job yet, but it worked out. I'm a Ravenclaw. My Patronus is a Marsh Harrier. I absolutely ask my team what kind of Hogwarts house they're in. It's kind of fun, but it helps me understand what kind of person they are. I like dinosaurs, T-Rexes mostly. And for fun, I play a lot of video games. I love making like playlists. So just a little bit about me.
Can I ask you, Jane? I don't know what Ravenclaw, Patronus, Marsh Harrier.
It's Harry Potter reference.
Oh, okay. Oh,
yeah. You're definitely a Hufflepuff if I had to guess.
I need to read Harry Potter. I'm behind the times.
It was a really good story, and you can kind of find all that out at pottermore.com.
Okay.
And you can kind of find what your house is. I just think it's a lot of fun learning about yourself.
Okay.
Yeah. So anyway.
Personality test is fun.
Exactly. It's just like, you know, an underestimated personality test. Yeah. So before I tell you like what SEO is, well, I'll tell you what SEO is eventually, but I want you to see the bigger picture because SEO isn't an isolated thing that you do. If someone says, hey, I'll give you SEO and they never touch your website, be wary. That's not SEO. So let's talk about how this all fits in. And we have to start at the beginning in that case. So where does SEO fit in? It depends on the purpose of your site. Are you selling products? Are you just generating leads? What is the purpose? Then, of course, you have to plan it out. You have to write the content, which does include SEO copywriting. you develop the website, and as you develop the website, you code certain things in order to assist in SEO, to let the search engine know, hey, this is important content. Then you do the SEO optimization, which is kind of checking off things on a list, making sure that you have these items. And then, of course, number 6, you have to track your efforts. And then step number 7, I would reevaluate after 4 to 6 weeks. So this is sort of like the game plan for an existing site that doesn't quite exist yet. Well, that didn't make any sense, but a website that's not ranked currently. And this mostly applies to a new site. If someone comes to me with an existing site, I have to go back to step 4 and make sure it's coded correctly, else it's working against me. Moving on here, here's some idea of purpose. Are you selling products or services? Are you generating leads? Establishing credentials, and ultimately becoming an authority in your industry. So here are just some ways that your website can work for you. Users often leave web pages in 10 to 20 seconds, but pages with a clear value proposition can hold people's attention much longer. Here's some examples. The website on the left, what do? The one on the right, what do? Sell clothes. So through visuals and through words, you can absolutely get the idea across. The first one, they might hit the back button because they're not quite sure if this is a web designer or not. Planning. If you fail to plan, you plan to fail. This is the most important part that I tend to help my clients with. They might come to me with something they think they need, but really they don't need that, and I give them something that they do. So don't skip these steps. Research. What are your competitors doing? What's conventional for the industry? For example, in the moving industry, there's always a quote form at the very top of the website. They want to grab that lead immediately. So that's something you should definitely do. If you're selling multiple products, you might want to mimic Amazon's layout because that's what people are used to buying. So it really depends on the industry you're in. And then, of course, you have your content outline. What do you want to feature? What order should it be in? What's the most important information your users need to know? You can sketch a quick wireframe or build it in Word. It's just a simple sketch that serves as a skeleton or blueprint of your site. So you might say, hey, let me go ahead and put a picture here, the logo here, the navigation will be here. You just lay it out and you plan it, and anyone can do this. And last and not least, know your audience. We have data to help you know your audience. On these two screens, this is telling you the age and race of people who use the internet. So notice that the average age of 65, for example, has the line's a lot lower than the people who are 18 to 29. So you might want to, if you're targeting seniors, you might want to see if there isn't another avenue you should take in addition to online, for example. Race also plays an important factor, but now in 2018, it's starting to merge. That's a beautiful thing to see. Next up, we have gender. They're pretty neck and neck. And the community. So suburban, urban, rural. It's kind of what you expect to see. Rural's a little bit lower because they're in the boondocks. Education and income. There is a huge divide when we're talking education. So people who have less than high school graduate degree don't use the internet that much at all. Income, the same way. So know your users. Here's some home broadband. So you can see, in 2018 it dipped a little bit, but that's how many people are at home using the internet. And the people who actually have broadband based on age. So, and then of course you have smartphone, which there's no research right now because it's too soon, but you can definitely assume that 2019, this is going to skyrocket because people are on their phones more at home. And this tells you about who's smartphone dependent. Would you believe that it's the ages between 30 and 49? '18 to 29 is top. So interesting stuff. But you can, so we kind of know the direction this thing is going. Mobile retail conversion. So for example, when you want to buy something, do you go to your desktop computer or do you go to an app on your phone? This is what that's explaining. So if you're on your phone and you make a purchase, that's sort of, that's incorporated into this data. So note that the desktop is much higher than the smartphone back in 2015, but this number is slowly increasing. Okay, so now that you know who your audience is, you have to have a content outline. And this is what that looks like. So for example, you have a home page, you have an about page, and then maybe under about you have an Our Team page, and then so on and so forth. So what does SEO look for? What does Google want? They want their web pages that are really great resources for the users to be at least 900 words. Realistically, no one's going to read that, right? But Google wants to see it because it means that you spend it's quality content, and it should be kind of stuff with keywords, and we're going to cover that. So 900 words. I typically try to do about 300 because I think 900 is insane. But SEO is a checklist, and some items are worth more points than others. So if you skimp on the content length, but you have a lot of other green check marks, then that's fine. For blogs, they want 2,500 words. And that's what this looks like. Really small font, but I shoved it in there for you. So they definitely want their blogs to be super, what we call cornerstone content. The creme de la creme, the authority of whatever it is that you're talking about, the authority of your key phrase. Okay, so that's just the planning part and how SEO kind of fits in. But now let's talk about everything you need to know. What the hell is SEO? You know, people talk about it, you know SEO stands for, search engine optimization, but really it's just a bunch of strategies and techniques that will increase your Google placement and Bing placement. It's not a black hat tactic. It's not this strange, coveted strategy that the search engines actually tell you what they want to see and how to rank. So our job as an SEO specialist is to help Google find your site. That's really all it is. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. I said this before, but this is huge. SEO is a checklist of items, and some points are worth more than others. Step one, what's your focus key phrase? If you want to be found, for example, Delaware web designer, you have to have an entire page dedicated to it. So if you're a services company and you have multiple services, let's say, all right, I've got some matches here. Let's say, let's say your company is Diamond. Yeah, and you have a couple different services. You have Strike on Box matches, you have Strike Anywhere matches, and you have long matches, like the ones that are super duper long. You should have a page dedicated to each and every one of those services or products, even if they're slightly different. So if you have a page that exists that doesn't need a focus key phrase, maybe you don't need it. Or it could just be your contact page, which, your focus key phrase could still be contact Tiketica, contact Diamond. So how do you choose the right keywords? Because you might want to be found for matches are awesome, but who's typing that into the search engine? Anyone? Google has come up with the keyword planner, and you can pop in your keyword and it will sort of go over how often it's searched for, as well as some alternatives. And don't worry, I'm going to have Jen send out this presentation to you all so you can kind of go through and click on these links. There's a references slide in the back. So not only do you want to find the right key phrase, but then you want to double check it with Google and make sure it actually is a great keyword. Because if you come up with number one is, you know, matches are awesome, but no one's searching for that, it really is meaningless. You get me? Step 2, add your focus key phrase to content in the right places. The more consecutive, the better. So Delaware Web Designer is more effective than I'm a web designer in Delaware. The downside of this is it can get pretty ugly, right? I mean, it's not very casual and friendly to be like, I am Delaware Web Designer. You know, it's kind of awkward, right? So you do kind of have to learn where to put it in the most elegant way. So the biggest thing about being searched, I think these points are worth more than any points ever. The name of your webpage should match the permalink, which should match the meta description. So here's an example. If I typed in Web Designer Delaware, and this is years ago, so I'm not entirely sure where I'm at right now. Notice I'm number 3, Delaware Web Design plus branding, and my company name's in the back. And that's because people who are looking for something probably don't know the name of your company. So that's why it's not first. It's not important at this point if you want to be found for Web Designer Delaware, right? And in a perfect world, the page content would look like this, /Delaware Website Designer. So if I had a page dedicated to this, it would also have this slug here, this URL, sproutcreatives.com/Delaware-web-designers/ So the URL of your website plays an important part in SEO. Any questions on that? So your page name should also be your URL name, and you should also add it to your meta description. Now, I broke a rule here. So I might say Taketica is a woman-owned branding and Delaware Web Designer Studio. So here I decided to break the rules, and I'm still on the front page, so that's why I did it. But yeah, those are the 3 big ones. Page title, the page URL name, the meta description. And there's more. These are some things that affect your SEO rankings. So let's say your focus key phrase is Delaware Web Design, and you can give some synonyms. So website, for example, instead of just web design. And notice here, there's some good check marks and some bad check marks. Going from the bottom up, you can see that my SEO title width was good. If your title is too long, it gets cut off and it doesn't factor into the Google formula. Key phrase in the title, which we have accomplished, which is the page name. Meta description length, you don't want to go over. Key phrase in meta description, we just covered that. The key phrase length is good. You don't want something too short or too long. If you have a key phrase that's shoes, you're competing with a lot of people. You're competing with every shoe company in the whole world, and people who are writing blogs about shoes. And so if you are a shoe repair company, you need to make sure that that key phrase is a perfect length in order to target those people. So you need to add in shoe repair company instead of just shoe. Make sense? Internal links. Google wants to see that you're linking to your own content to help people navigate the site. Outbound links, sometimes you want to link to other sources, and that marks your website as a good resource for people if you start reaching out. The text length, I apparently only had 462 words, and of course it went to 900. So that's a rule I broke. Your image alt attributes. So here it's saying I'm actually over key phrasing my images. So images have two attributes. You can give the image a title, which is what I normally describe it as. So for example, if I had a picture of a website, I might say the name of the company, Tiketica Web Design, or something like that. And then the image attribute is something you actually use to describe the image. And this helps people with disabilities, with, for auditory or blind, to actually get what they need from their readers. So to fill out that information is pretty important for compliance. Key phrase distribution. They want to see that your key phrases are spread evenly throughout the content. This helps them know if you're just sort of keyword stuffing at the beginning and then the real content starts. They just want to see that the entire page is dedicated to this key phrase. Link key phrase. So this is yelling at me because I linked to another page that had the same focus key phrase. They don't want you to do that because technically you're competing for yourself. But I say, hell, if my website comes up twice on SEO, that's fine with me, So if it comes up on Google twice, I don't really care. The key phrase and subheadings, they want to see you using those headings and keeping this key phrase going. Only use one H1 per page. Who here knows what an H1 is? A heading 1. This is your page name. This is what Google looks for as like the ultimate about what your page is about. You should only have one per page. The focus, then you have key phrase density. They want to make sure you're not stuffing, but you are using the key phrase a lot. Your key phrase should also appear in the first paragraph of your copy. They really want you to just go crazy, but not too crazy. It's quite interesting. So this is like everything. They recently introduced a reading attribute, which is this well read? Is it easy to read for people? And I have completely just ignored this part because some industries are technical and they're never going to pass. You know what I mean? Because they're using long words, but if they're an antibody company, that's just going to happen. So you just sort of have to figure out if it's a good fit for you to pay attention to it.
Hey, Jane.
Yes.
This is Kim. How did you get this analysis of your website SEO?
I use a plugin called Yoast. It's a WordPress plugin. It's a tongue twister. It looks a little bit different now because this was last year, but most of it's the same. I get the pro version because I'm hardcore about SEO for obvious reasons. Being an SEO company. It allows you to do things like redirect to deleted content. If you change the URL, it'll automatically redirect for you. So yeah. Okay. So this just shows a bit closer what this looks like. The title of the page, the meta description. We want those key phrases in there. This is the readability one. The text contains 6 consecutive sentences starting with the same word. I refuse to acknowledge this. So use it, use it dangerously, I guess. Here's an example of how this comes to life. So this is my H1, Branding Web Design Studio. And here you'll notice that I also probably have it, Branding Web Design Studio. Here's your intro, here's your paragraph. So the H1 doesn't necessarily have to be styled out huge, but it should be at the top. Keyword stuffing. How the heck do you create a beautiful website with beautiful content filled with keywords? It's a challenge. And that's when you have to make a decision on whether or not maybe the headline isn't our website design. Maybe you put that someplace else and mark it as an H3. You really won't know until you test Google. Where do you fall? How can you increase your SEO? So you can try other things first, but I will say the key phrases are the most important because content, as we say, is king. Your content dictates where you fall. and how it's relevant to people looking for information. Because people look for information all the time, and they only stay on the website for only a few seconds. So if they have to dig around for it, they're gone, they went to the next site. Step 3, other SEO factors. These are things you can do outside your website or working on your site. So if you've registered your domain for at least 5 years, that lets Google know that you're a company that can be trusted, you're going to be around a while, you're going to hang out. You can forward relevant domains to appropriate content. So for example, I might get the domain webdesignerdelaware.com and forward that to the Tcetico web design page. I personally don't think this is worth a lot of points, but it's still a factor. And at a click of a button, Google can change it. I've seen it come and go over the years. Another huge one is that if you want to be found on Google, you have to get verified. So what you need is a Google business page. Fill out all your information. They're going to mail you a code to make sure you're a legit business. And then you go in and plug in that code, and then that helps Google verify that you're legit, and now you're going to come up higher on the search because you're verified. Update your content often. Whenever you update your website, it updates the date on the server, and Google says, hey, this is more relevant than this other website that hasn't been touched in years. Connect on social media and directories. This will help boost your rankings because these websites are credible, they've been around a while, Google ranks them highly, so you're going to be ranked highly as well. Some examples are Yelp, Manta, Angie's List, the Better Business Bureau, your chamber websites, and then of course, get your social media accounts going, Twitter, Facebook, LinkedIn, etc. Now, not all of these might be relevant to you. Like I don't really care about Yelp or Manta. Sometimes in my industry, there are certain directories that are just web design specific that I might join. So that would be something to look into. If you're doing a key phrase search on Google and you're noticing all these directories are coming up before you, those are the kind of directories you want to make sure your site is on. And usually just make a profile and then go from there. Install an SSL certificate, even if you don't sell anything online. Google recently made this huge change where if you didn't have an SSL, it would say your website wasn't secure, and that alarmed people. So everyone decided to get an SSL certificate. So make sure you have one. That'll help you rank higher, and it won't scare people away. That is a problem. Make sure you analyze your focus key phrase. Is it the right one? We talked about that a little bit. Make sure you have a sitemap. Make sure your site is mobile friendly. Most websites that you get nowadays are default mobile friendly. So check that and make sure that's true, because websites that are mobile friendly rank higher. Make sure your website loads within 2 seconds. Speed affects your ranking as well as conversion rates. And use Google Search Console to find any 404 pages. We'll go into that a bit. Here's a little thing I like to look at every now and then. It's called the periodic table of SEO success factors. This goes into more step by step, which I'll share with you. At the end, you'll get this presentation. Now what? Well, lead generation is what we're happening, because if you have the best website, but no one's contacting you, does it matter? So here, let's talk about call to actions, the simplest thing. And sometimes all you have to do is ask. You need to have buy buttons, add to cart buttons, information gathering forms. Hey, you want this white paper? Well, give me your name and address and I'll email it to you. By the way, you're on our mailing list now. Read more, try it now, help, all of these things, just get that person to act. Social media share buttons and follow buttons. It has to be placed correctly and designed well. It should just be crystal clear and very compelling. Here are some examples. Great call to actions. Look at this. Why Crazy Egg is risk-free. 100% no risk, double guarantee. I don't know what that means, but I'm feeling safe right now. Show me my heat map. So here, no questions asked. It's really targeting different people with this messaging. People who need more information will keep reading. People who are ready to go now will go for it. So yeah. So you feel like you can sign up with confidence. This one, the call to action is fill out this form and get a free card. That's it. Or you can sign in if you're already a member. No distractions, just if you're interested, do this, and if they're interested, they will. If not, they'll back out. This, Brooke was mentioning, people love to pick. So do you want a bath or a shower? Well, guess what? The end result is still clean, right? So here it's saying, I want to grow my traffic, or hey, I want to coach my clients. So again, it gives you the power to pick your path, even if the same result, you know, whatever. And the biggest thing I have to say is test, test, and test again, because sometimes there might be some bugs. Your contact form might not be working. Maybe there's accessibility issues. Maybe it doesn't look good on mobile. You really need to kind of take a look at that and make sure the process is there, because if someone fills out a form and you never get it, that's unfortunate, right? Or they fill out a form and it doesn't work, they just leave. Track your efforts. You can do all of this, but please track your efforts with Google Analytics and Search Console. Here's an example of just analytics overview. This is the data for a medical office, and noticing in April, their traffic went down because everyone's not going out right now, right? So, and before, you know, so they're down, you know, almost half, 5%, whatever. So you need to kind of explain why that was. And we know it's because of what's going on right now. Tools, you want to use Google Analytics and Google Search Console. Google Analytics gives you the data, and Google Search Console helps you monitor your site's presence on Google, and will show you broken links and other errors that might be hindering your efforts. More tools of the trade. You can check the speed of your website. You can check and see if your website's mobile friendly. Keyword tool just gives you some keyword ideas if you're not sure. Google Keyword Planner, I just mentioned. If you need to build your own XML sitemap, and let's say you're not on WordPress, but you have like a traditional HTML site, you'll need to do that. And don't worry, I had the links all provided on the reference slides. After you publish your site, or after you initiate these changes, you want to look for about 4 to 6 weeks for your result. You might see you slowly climbing up to the top during this time, but you won't quite know where you fall more permanently until about the 6-week mark. And then from there, you can reevaluate and keep adding those points to your SEO. And the most neglected marketing principle is following up. I can make you the best website in the world and get people to your site, but if you're not following up with your leads, it's all for nothing. So when you get a lead from your site, email, call them right away. You know, summarize what your meeting and send them some meeting notes and the next steps. A handwritten thank you note's always awesome. A brief phone call. Just try to connect with them every quarter if it's appropriate. Add them to your newsletter with their permission, and just keep checking in. So that ultimately, went through that pretty fast, is what SEO is really all about. There's a lot of other things like linking to other websites and doing those link backs, but this is sort of the beginner's guide and gives you an overview of how this process works and what it looks like. What kind of question do you guys have? Are you just overloaded? Do you want to murder yourself?
Yes.
One step at a time is what I always say. Going back to the beginning here.
Jane, I did have a question. So
Sure.
if you are using Google Analytics, what do you do to learn more about Google Analytics?
Creating an account and taking a look at your visitors.
Okay.
Yeah, you just log in. I like to Google Analytics and then just click on whatever link it takes me to.
Okay.
You log in with your Google account, and I have to think about you specifically, Michelle, because I know I did your site. I can add you as an admin to the Google Analytics
Okay, great.
account, but just send me your Google account.
Okay. And by Google account, you mean my email or?
Whatever email is technically associated with Google. So if you have Google Suite, then you can totally send me your regular email.
Okay.
Yeah. Any other questions?
Yeah,
Sure.
I had a question. So regarding earlier when you were talking about like 900 words and 2,500 words, are you talking about like per content, like so per blog post it should be 2,500 words? Is like
Yes. Yeah. So basically, for a
That's
regular
like
website,
essay.
yeah. So for just a web page, like an about page or maybe a services page, Google's looking for about 900 words, which is an insane amount of words. No one's going to read that many words, but Google wants to see that. I still stick with 300 words because I think it's crazy pants. Blogs,
Yeah, like 300
yeah.
one page basically, and then
It's gigantic. Yeah.
yeah.
2,500 words for blogs. Basically, what they want to see is much content, bullet points. You know, they want to see the key phrase worked in there throughout the entire thing. So it looks to Google like a really comprehensive article. Like if it's about fixing your TV, the article that has more content is going to come up first because that might make the user, that might help the user more than one that just has like, open the TV, fix it, you know? So I think that's why they use that algorithm.
And then so another question. So that theoretically you could have like one post, like a lot of your posts, like a lot of blog posts could be like 300 to 900, and then one like where because there's like something that I've been working on that will probably be at least 3,000 words when I'm done with it.
Yeah.
So that would be that would be great then to have that, is what you're saying.
Oh, definitely. And something that I do with my clients is that I slowly build out a blog post. So for example, I'm working with a tenant screening company, and I am adding all of the state laws to one blog post. So it keeps getting longer and longer and longer and updating. So you don't necessarily have to say, oh, I have to make a completely new topic with a new blog post. You can update an existing one and make that even more helpful than it was before.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Yeah.
I didn't even think of that. Yeah. I always thought like it has to be fresh. So it has to be like a new blog post. But
well, so long as the date on the page says the most recent date, Google doesn't care, I don't think.
because it republishes it.
Exactly.
Okay. Interesting. Cool. Thank you.
Yep.
So
Thanks,
Jane, I have a question.
Hi, Nancy. What you got for me?
I didn't write any of my content with any of this in mind. So
Mhm.
how am I doing?
Well, you are in a very different position because you're building a community.
Okay.
So we're going to take a look at that. After we go live, we'll take a look. And that's when the SEO really happens. It's coded correctly, but then you can go in and change the words as you see fit. We can add something to your footer that has the keywords. It might not be super prominent, but we just need to figure out what someone is searching for. And that might be a deeper discussion because they might not realize that they want a place to share their story. How else would they get there? So we're going to do a loop-de-loop before we finalize what that key phrase looks like.
Great, thanks.
You're welcome.
This is Kim, and I'm
Hey,
sorry
Kim.
I can't show my camera because Jen turned me off at some point. But my question relates to, for my nonprofit, the League of Women Voters, I got sort of this teaser offer from Google saying that they were going to give me $15 for Google ads, Google search ads.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering if it's worth the effort to set it up. How do you feel about paid Google search ads?
It's great for certain search engines, especially the ones that are super saturated. For example, the ones that come to mind, web designers, there's a crap ton of us, so paying for an ad is very beneficial. Mortgage companies, real estate agents, when there's a dime a dozen, that's when buying Google AdWords can really help. If you're a small business and there's no way in hell you can beat the people on the first page because they've been in business for 20 years and they have this super elaborate website that's super easy to use and it's just magnificent in every way, shape, or form, it's hard to beat those people. So you have to come up with a second strategy. And your second strategy might be A, search engine marketing, or B, social media marketing, or both. So we find our own avenues to get seen and stand out from our competitors. And there's just multiple ways to do that. But normally I would say, hey, if you want to get found on the first page of Google, you need to buy an ad because there's way too many. I'll tell you that. But most of the time, what I particularly specialize in is organic SEO, which means I do everything right for your site and it'll naturally come to the surface. It depends on your competitors and what they're doing, how well they're doing it. SEO is one of those things where you can pour your heart and soul into it and do everything right, but a site could rank higher because of XYZ, because of their domain name. For example, there's a tattoo shop called Delaware Branding Company. I love you guys, but I kind of hate you. And they always come up before me, even though they do tattoos. So they have an awesome name and they're killing my rankings. I hope you
Wow.
see this. No. So stuff like that can happen.
So here's something that's happened with me that would be kind of, it's relevant to that. So to the point where like I'm wondering, like, should I change my brand name? So maybe this is a good question for you. So
Yeah,
Mr.
sure.
Nickel is my brand name. I've had this website for a number of years. It's like Mr. Nickel Kids, YouTube, Facebook, etc. I started first. Okay. Another Mr. Nickel, like sometimes when you search for my videos, like his videos come first. And he doesn't even spell it. He spells it. I spell it mine like pickle, Nickle.
Yeah.
He's like the coin with the EL.
Okay.
He's like a gangster rapper, like a
Killing your brand, is he?
killing my brand. And then like parents would be like, I tried Googling you, but you didn't come up. And then I'm like, you saw the rapper, didn't you? It's like, yeah. God.
It's hard to be famous people. You know, if your name's Michael Bolton, I'm sorry. You're gonna have a hard
I know. Well, I think he's just picking up. Like he started after me, right? Like I started everything first, and then and I don't think he's that famous. I think he's got like YouTube. I have 330 subscribers. I think he's got like 1,000 or so. It might be more last time I checked. But how do I rank above him? Do you have any tips on that?
Yes, because I feel like, are you at least on the first page?
Usually. So like I'm talking about like YouTube. I don't know if you.
Oh, YouTube. Okay.
And
YouTube,
then,
yeah, that's a whole new thing. YouTube is a world I don't really dive into too much. They have their own algorithms that are completely their own with where your video comes up if you search on YouTube.
So when you Google Mr. Nickel on Google, because I've got like, he's just on YouTube, right? So I've got Twitter, I've got everything's there. But then when you go on YouTube, then it's just like his videos. His videos come up first on there.
But what I can say though is that a lot of companies, if they're afraid that their competitors are sort of stealing their brand, they'll do paid Google advertisements. So if I type in like Amazon shoes, Amazon will have an ad at the top, but then in the regular ones, you'll see like other companies like Macy's or whatever, kind of piggybacking off of that. And people typically just make sure they're the top one, but Amazon obviously can afford that. And the bids and what you pay is really based on industry. And Google kind of sets that amount.
Okay, so you're saying now, just so I understand. So you're saying like maybe like doing a paid, like an ongoing paid advertisement that when you search for specifically my name, that one of my videos pops up.
That you will be whatever you want will pop up. It could be a link to YouTube. It could be a link to your website. It could be whatever.
Okay.
Yep. So that's how I would get around the identity crisis you guys are having right now.
Just like it's frustrating. He's like it's gangster rap. You know, it is like as far away from my brand as possible. It is like the last thing, and then So anyways,
okay.
Thank you. That's very helpful.
Yeah, there's a lot of other branding things I might recommend to you. But I'm gonna search for you and see what I get, and then I'll let you know what I think.
Okay, great. I appreciate it.
You're welcome.
Thanks, Jane, and thanks for popping into my show the other day. That was fun.
It was so good. I was I didn't know what I was gonna get, but I was impressed.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah, I have an inner child, so I was very tickled by your performance.
Yeah, it was nice having you there.
Thank you. Does anyone else have any questions? Carter?
You went to a key web page or like a key phrase page for SEO. I didn't know what that page was called. I had to take a call and step away.
Oh, sure. I have it here, and I'll send you an email. because you're my client. It is Google's keyword planner. 1 second. I'll pop into an email to you right now.
Cool.
Yep. And I'll probably send you this presentation. Actually, there was one thing I did not talk about that I know is, that Carter's interested in, is that hosting companies are really cracking down on the size of images, and this is making my life utter hell, because as a branding company, I want to shine, I want it to look gorgeous, perfect resolution, but WordPress is sort of resizing images, so be aware of that. You want your images to be under 200 kilobytes, typically. I usually save my images at about 1200 pixels wide, medium quality. Sometimes you can't get away with that if there's a lot of gradients. You won't notice it smoothing well. Just have to play it by ear, but please don't upload images that are like 4,000 pixels wide. If you're a client of mine, I could install an image resizer for you where it will take care of that for you. But yeah, there's other formats you can also use, but I don't quite trust them at this time. Because if you try to share some of them, they're not going to show up well in certain stuff like emails and etc. It really depends on what the person is using to view. Because the emails aren't quite as advanced as like website design. So that's why a lot of email campaigns are just super simple. Just doesn't recognize more advanced CSS to stylize. So yes, and that goes with your website speed. There is a reference in here, which we'll send to you, where you can click and actually test the speed of your site. If you're on a WordPress site, you should expect your speed to be about a C. If it's something super interactive that has sliders and a lot of graphics, it can start to rank poorly. And that's when it's important to start turning off some of those plugins that you're not using. Any questions on that?
Yeah,
Carter,
James.
you're good on that part, but
Yeah, I mean, I guess on that part, I feel like to your point, kind of the purpose of a website itself would be to kind of gather as like a lead generation tool.
yeah.
And when you start to slow it down, like in what way, like if you were to weight different categories of Google ranking, like a site speed, like how much is that going to slow us down in terms of our SEO ranking? Is that heavily weighted in the hierarchy, if you will, or
I don't think it's highly ranked by Google, but it does highly rank with people. So if you're on your phone and the website hasn't loaded in 5 seconds, I know I would probably hit back and hit the next website. So it just depends on what you're selling, what your user is, how fast you need that information on a daily basis, and it can change from industry to industry. If someone went to you on purpose, they might wait for that load. But if they have a bunch of options on Google front page, you know, they might not wait around. So that's more of a user issue and not necessarily a ranking issue.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Susan, what about you? You got any questions?
Nothing general. I have lots of specific questions, but I should just contact you.
Oh, come on, ask me one on the house.
I don't know. I'll have to think about it.
But when you start to feel overwhelmed, just think of it page by page. What's the purpose of this page I'm making? What do I want that person to do when they get there? Is it call me? Is it fill out this form? That's what you want to push.
So what's the first thing I should do if I'm trying to make my SEO better?
Okay, let's do this for real. What's your website?
SusanRobinsonAuthor.com.
Did I nail it?
Yep.
Lovely. Okay. 1 second, I'm doing some stuff that you're probably not. Ignore everything I'm doing right now. I'm stalking you. I want to see if this is. Is the picture book author part of the logo? Or is it text? Yeah, I think it's
I don't remember.
okay. Oh, it's a shape. What is that? It's not telling me. Let me look this up. Okay, so here's one of the problems of your site. That's lovely. You do great work, by the way. It's stunning. Okay, so so the main problem I see is that your name and what you do is a graphic, which means Google can't read it. So the first thing I would do is have your logo, but then you need to reiterate that as an H1 on your page. So there should be a main headline that says, "Hi, I'm Susan and I'm a picture book author." And tag that as H1. And what I might do is we got cut off, but yeah, that's it in a nutshell.